What if I told you that the parts of yourself you try to hide, your anger, jealousy, or selfishness, are actually the key to understanding who you really are? Carl Jung called this hidden part of us the shadow, and it's not something to fear. In fact, embracing your dark side can lead to profound personal growth and self-awareness. In this video, we'll explore why we all have a shadow, how it shapes our behavior, and how you can integrate it to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. Ready to face your dark side? Let's dive in. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that the human psyche is made up of many layers. One of the most fascinating, and often misunderstood, is the shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves we repress, deny, or hide because it feels too dark, unacceptable, or out of alignment with who we think we should be. It's where we store our anger, jealousy, selfishness, and other traits we're taught to reject. But here's the thing. The shadow isn't something to fear. In fact, Jung believed that ignoring it only gives it more power over us. When we deny our shadow, it leaks out in unexpected ways, through projection, self-sabotage, or even sudden outbursts of emotion. The key to living a more authentic and fulfilling life isn't to eliminate the shadow, but to understand and integrate it. Today, we'll dive into Jung's concept of the shadow, why it exists, and how it influences our behavior. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand your dark side, but also learn how to embrace it as a vital part of who you are. Let's get started. So what exactly is the shadow? In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the part of our psyche that contains everything we don't want to acknowledge about ourselves. Our fears, insecurities, and so-called negative traits like anger, envy, or selfishness. It's not inherently evil, but it's often misunderstood. These are the parts of ourselves we've been taught to reject, so we push them into the shadows, out of sight and out of mind. Think of the shadow as the basement of your mind. It's where you store everything you don't want to deal with. Old memories, uncomfortable emotions, and traits you'd rather not admit to having. But just because it's out of sight doesn't mean it's gone. Ignoring the shadow is like living in a house with a cluttered basement. Eventually, you'll trip over something you forgot was there. Jung believed that the shadow isn't just a collection of bad traits. It also contains hidden strengths and potential. For example, someone who represses their assertiveness might discover a powerful sense of confidence once they integrate their shadow. The shadow isn't something to fear, it's something to understand. The shadow forms in childhood. As we grow up, we learn that certain traits, like aggression, selfishness, or vulnerability, are unacceptable. Maybe you were scolded for being too loud or told not to cry. Over time, we push these traits into the shadow to fit in, be loved, and avoid punishment. But here's the catch. These traits don't disappear. They just go underground, where they continue to influence us in subtle and often surprising ways. For example, let's say you were taught that anger is bad. Every time you felt angry as a child, you were punished or shamed. Over time, you learned to push your anger into the shadow. But that anger doesn't go away. It just finds other ways to express itself. Maybe you become passive-aggressive, or you bottle it up until it explodes in a moment of frustration. That's the shadow at work. The shadow doesn't just affect how we see ourselves, it shapes how we interact with the world. For example, if you deny your own need for control, you might attract controlling people into your life. Or if you repress your anger, it might leak out in passive-aggressive ways, like making sarcastic comments or giving someone the silent treatment. Think about someone who's always criticizing others for being selfish. Chances are, they're projecting their own selfish tendencies onto others. That's the shadow at work. It's like holding up a mirror but pointing it at someone else. The traits we dislike in others are often the ones we've buried in our own shadow. The shadow can also influence our relationships. If you've ever found yourself in a toxic relationship, it might be because your shadow is drawn to someone who mirrors your hidden traits. For example, if you struggle with self-worth, you might attract partners who reinforce that belief. The shadow isn't just a personal issue, it's a relational one. The goal of shadow work isn't to eliminate the shadow, it's to integrate it. This means acknowledging and accepting the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Here's how to start. Notice your triggers. What behaviors in others make you angry or uncomfortable? These might be clues about your shadow. Journal about it. Write down the traits you dislike in others and ask yourself, do I see any of this in me? Talk to a therapist. Shadow work can be intense, and a professional can help you navigate it safely. When you integrate your shadow, you become more whole. You stop projecting your insecurities onto others and start living with greater authenticity and self-awareness. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. As Jung famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who's curious about psychology or self-discovery. Let's spread the knowledge and help others understand the hidden workings of their minds. Don't forget to subscribe to Intuitra for more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and the art of thinking deeply. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding your mind is the first step to mastering it. See you next time.